I'm a big believer that we can truly create our own miracles by having faith, aligning ourselves with the energy of the universe, and also trusting in ourselves and feeling good and confident about who we are. You know, when you feel 100% confident about yourself, you don't really care what people think about you. Robin is in one of my business programs, and we talk about maybe feeling sometimes desperate in needing to get clients or needing to get business. And one of the things that the whole group we work on and we talk about is that if you're presenting your program and someone just says no, the best thing is to say, okay, next, and not worry about that client. Go to the next client. Go to the next client. Have faith. Know that there will be a next client. If you have that energy and you carry that energy and you're like, I'm confident, I'm good at what I do, and I'll have lots of clients, and I'm going to keep putting myself out there, and those clients that are meant for me will show up. And also, when you put it out to the universe, I would like to create, manifest, align with the miracles of bringing in customers or clients that align with me. People who are ready to work with me because they align with my energy. And when you put that energy out there, that is what you will attract. Today, I picked an interesting topic, and you may find this one interesting, and I will talk a lot about this topic, and then I also want to be able to have each of you perhaps share some instances in your life where you believe this topic applies. And if you didn't see our newsletter, it's actually going to be about miracles. And I don't know if many of you believe or feel that you've ever experienced a miracle. And miracles could also be aligned with synchronicity. And it's when two things, we talk about time and space or situations, when things come together sometimes that can't be explained, or when things come together that may not have data or facts behind it, but yet it occurred, and you as an individual or even others around you may not understand why did that happen, and also how did it happen, and can it happen again? So let me talk a little bit, let me kind of deconstruct a little bit about miracles. Now there's different categories of miracles. First you have the Catholic Church. So the Catholic Church for a long, long time, and probably still to a certain extent, kind of holds what they think is possessions of miracles. And that is because they also can proclaim saints. And when they proclaim a saint, it means that somewhere, somehow, a miracle occurred. And there's been all kinds of miracles, religious miracles, even beyond the Catholic Church, but religious miracles that have been documented, that have happened. And again, they did not have a clear explanation, but there just didn't seem to be facts to back up why something was happening. Now, I know in one case, there was a case of apparently a cross, a crucifix cross. It was like a large one where there appeared to be liquid running down from out of the feet. And of course, many people felt that that was definitely a miracle. There's oil, there's water, there's something. But then it was later determined that it had something to do with the building that it was on, that there was the seeping of water from the sewer system. And and so when they really got in and began to discover and dig into the facts, that's a situation where the facts proved it to be different than what it was. But then you have a miracle of a 12-year-old boy that drowns in cold water and was in this water for over 45 minutes and was basically dead. And he was brought to the hospital, and was basically in this deep coma, but he was not breathing, his heart was not beating, and he was pronounced dead. And his mother basically went into the chapel and prayed and prayed and prayed, and miraculously this young man's heart began to beat, and they were able to continue to revive him and to do other things, and he fully recovered with nothing that interfered with him in the future. He was like perfectly okay. And this family, and it was reported on the news, this family basically said that was a miracle. Because here was someone, how can anyone spend that much time in water not breathing? Now, of course, science says a lot of this has to do with the fact that the water was extremely cold. It basically shut down his body, and his body was just happened to be in a position to where whatever was going on in his particular body, it shut down, it was preserving itself. And then when they were able to bring him back to the hospital facility, they were also keeping him very cold at the time, because there were other things that were causing them not to like truly pronounce him legally dead yet. And then the fact that they noted a heartbeat. And the heartbeat could have been very, very, very faint. But the reality is that this is something that very few people, other than maybe this one young man, or there could have been others, survive such a situation. But then you have situations where we have situations in our everyday life where we have these synchronicities, and things happen that bring something to our mind. And then sometimes that can have a profound effect on us. So, as an example, someone might be grieving a loved one, and then maybe they had a conversation with that loved one prior, and the loved one said, you know, when I've passed on, when you see butterflies, that will be me. And then there may be times where that individual may even be sitting, thinking, talking, thinking about that loved one, and then all of a sudden a butterfly appears. And that, people say, oh, that was just, that just happened, that was a coincidence. I don't know about most of you, but in the spiritual world, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything happens, that it's meant to happen, and it happens in the moment that it should happen, which is what we call time and space. So what I'd like to do is kind of deconstruct a couple of situations and talk about miracles, and is there a way that you can bring miracles into your life? And according to some scholars and some spiritual leaders, that we can literally manifest miracles, and a lot of times we call those intentions, or we call those goals, or we call those a situation, but we can also manifest and set intentions for situations that at the time we're not necessarily thinking is a miracle, but it could be a miracle. A couple of other examples. So as an example, a lot of people don't know this, but Abraham Lincoln actually dreamed that he would be shot. And he had a dream, and he actually discussed that dream with others and said, I had this dream, this is what happened, I was in a theater, someone came in, they shot me, and I died. And it was a prophetic dream. He was literally dreaming about something in his life. And then we've had situations where I read an interesting article about the Beatles, and Paul McCartney dreamed the song Yesterday. And he dreamed all the notes and all the music, and he woke up humming this song and just spontaneously singing the lyrics. And at first he thought, okay, I'm singing someone's song. But in reality, that song had come to him in a dream, and that ended up being one of the top songs that gained a lot of honors and visibility, because he literally had dreamed. And he even said himself, wow, it was like a miracle. This song just came to me, and it was at the right time. It was meant to be, I took action and I put it out there, and then it turned into an amazing opportunity for our band and our music. Who knows, Rebecca, you might dream a song one night or music, and then there you go. You put it out there. And it could be that, like we talk about, it could be a miracle. It could be that it's being brought to you because it's supposed to be brought to you. So one of the steps in really thinking about miracles, because sometimes we don't even think about miracles. We think about what other people have experienced, but also it's very important to think about yourself and that you can actually create miracles, or you are a recipient of a miracle. But the number one action or step to miracles is faith. And that is also the action or the energy that has to do with manifestation or setting intentions or wanting to create a situation for yourself. And there's several components that go into these actions. And one is first getting very clear in a situation that you may be working on. First you want to get clear. Sometimes in situations where maybe something has happened, and we also, sometimes we are not willing to recognize that sometimes things are what they are. But it doesn't mean that we can't contribute energy to a situation that could shift things. And some people just say, oh, well, this isn't gonna help me at all. If it doesn't matter if I do this or I do that, it's actually not going to help me. And good morning, come on in, yes. And so what happens is that we first have to believe. We have to believe that you have the energy, you have the opportunity. Hi, how are you? Come on in. You have the energy, you have the opportunity to change a situation. You actually do. And many of you probably don't believe that, but that comes from having faith. And faith in what I believe is a greater power that can make an impact on something that you're working on. And I know that I myself have experienced what I call miracles, but also I was very aware of what I was doing when those miracles happened. And, as an example, there were situations where I was right down to the line of something that I wanted I really didn't want it to happen, but, in other words, I was thinking of a situation that I needed to solve. And in my mind, at first, it was like, I'm just not going to be able to solve this. I don't have the wherewithal, or I don't have the support, or I don't have... So first I was thinking negatively, right? That's the first thing most of us do when we are wanting to step into a situation. Secondly, we have to view the situation and understand what is it. And then on top of that, we have to have faith that it will be handled for us. And that if there's an action we need to take, then there's an action we need to take. But in many cases, when miracles occur, it's because you've sort of put it out there and you've left it alone. And I kind of put miracles and manifestation in the same category. Because miracles can happen without us even knowing about them at all. Or we hear about miracles with other people. So if I break this down, I go back to how can you create miracles in your life instead of saying they only happen spontaneously. Because they don't just happen spontaneously. They happen many times because you put the time, the effort, the thought, and then you're trusting in the universe. Does that make sense? Is that making sense? And it also means that there are situations that a lot of times we're not in control of. We can't control. We can support, but we can't control. And what happens is the universe sometimes gives us an alternative action around that support. Good example, someone's in a job and they're not happy in that job, or they're not happy in that career, but in that particular job they feel like the environment is toxic, they're sort of fighting against other associates. They don't feel like their manager really supports them or likes them, but yet they stay in the job and and they're miserable, and they're like, oh, I can't be in this situation. And then all of a sudden they get fired. But the firing of that person is an opportunity for them to seek something better. Whereas it's your attitude of how you accept that action. I talk a lot about the little electric car that you wind up and it hits the wall, and then it turns and goes in a different direction. It hits the wall and goes in another direction. Sometimes that's the way the universe works. It brings us situations that we may not think we want, but that situation puts us in a better place. That situation relieves us of the stress and the toxicity that we've put ourselves in, and then it sends us to a different direction. And it kind of goes back to my philosophy of everything happens for you, not to you. And when you begin to recognize that things are happening for me, and you step into that, okay, this is happening for me. I don't know if I really like this, but where do I go from here? The universe then opens a door, and then you have to have faith. And when you have faith on that situation, and also take actions. I mean, it's one thing for someone to get fired, and then they go home and they just sit in their home and go, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And they don't take action. They first just have faith. There's a better opportunity out there for you, because in reality, they were miserable. Why would anyone want to stay in a miserable situation like that and keep, just dumping it on top of themselves? So the first thing is they've been relieved of that toxicity, or they've been relieved of that environment. And then if you just sit there and you go, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? You're in what we call analysis paralysis. The next part is that you have to take action. So what am I going to do? First, let me have faith that there's a better opportunity out there. And I know it's out there for me. It is out there for me. And when you take that on and you name it and you claim it, then you take an action. So what do I do to claim and to find this next opportunity? And when you move forward with that attitude and that energy, I truly believe that the universe begins to deliver. Because what you're doing now is aligning yourself with the energy of the universe. And when you continue to align yourself, you can't force it. You can keep buying those lottery tickets, and you can keep buying them. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you buy it, you got to let it go. Just look at it later, or look at it that night. But you have to be okay if that particular ticket didn't win for you. I mean, maybe Spirit's saying just keep buying. Some people want to win the lottery, but they never buy a ticket. So how are you going to do that?
Win the lottery that I don't play.
It's like I want to be in a loving, romantic relationship, but they never leave their house. How are you going to do that? You have to take action. And so miracles literally happen at times when people take action. So the action in the young man that was in the freezing water was that, number one, the hospital didn't truly legally declare him dead. His mother believed that he was going to come to. His mother believed, and her faith was so strong that it is possible that her prayers and her faith caused that young man's body to begin to function again. And who knows, the reality is that could have been a part of his destiny as well. And his mother was part of that to add energy to that situation, or to align her energy with that situation. And some of you this morning have talked about things that you're doing and things that you're working on. And it is important to recognize how do you align your energy with situations. And especially when you have a situation that you don't want to let go of, But you know that you have to let go of it. You know that things aren't working, especially if it's, to me, the number one energy for me is when there's toxicity. When you're feeling, things around you are negative, or when you're feeling that you're not necessarily aligning with others, or when others aren't treating you with respect, or you feel like you're not treating others with respect, that's your first sign. Your first sign is that you're in a negative environment, and you don't want to go to negative self-talk. Because the more that you focus on the negative aspect of any situation, you're just going to bring more of that into your life. And it's hard because our brain constantly works and thinks and talks and acts many times in the negative mode versus the positive mode. So to me, miracles are related to positive thinking, positive being, positive doing. And we have a lot of positive thinking, but we can change our doing and what we say to ourselves, and that's a first step. Even in a toxic environment, you could even say to yourself, okay, I'm in this toxic environment, but I'm going to completely remove myself from this energy. I'm going to do my work, do my job, and I'm not going to involve myself in the things that may be happening or the drama that's going on, and I'm going to spend my time seeking a better opportunity. That's positive talk. I'm going to seek a better. I deserve better. I, deserve respect. And when you start shifting your mind to do that, then the universe starts aligning its energy. Have you ever noticed someone that all they ever do is talk about how everything happens to them? And then it seems like more and more happens to them. The more they talk about it, the more that happens. And I go back to the statement, what you focus on expands. And when you focus on being a victim and you're just like, my car broke down, my house burned down, my girlfriend left me, I lost all my money, they're just setting themselves up. And I know people that's happened to. I do. And then they just keep talking as, I can't find a job, I can't get a new girlfriend, and I don't have the money to build a new house, and the bank did me wrong, and it goes on and on and on. And it's hard to have a friend like that. In fact, I don't know that we could call them a friend. But what happens is they're also sucking your energy. When they are talking like that, they're pulling your good energy out of you. And you want to pay attention to that. Because sometimes we get in those situations and we've kind of got like this little cloud of negativity following us around because they kind of pass it on to us. In fact, I use this analogy is that there are a lot of toxic people or people that are drama, and what they do is they come and they carry their garbage of drama and they dump it in your yard. And then you're there, you're going, oh, no, wait. You take that garbage can and you bring it back and you dump it in their yard. You put it back. And we tend to, as humans, to take on the drama of others. And because we're human and we have emotions, sometimes we find it hard to let go. Sometimes we find it hard. We know intellectually, this person does not speak positively of anything. Why do I keep going to dinner with them? Why do you keep hanging out with them? Why do you keep doing certain things? Why, there's one person in the workplace. They're always gossiping about everyone. Why do we listen to that? We don't. We shouldn't. You move on. And you find that half of the things that you hear or feel or do in a workplace could be changed dramatically if most of the people in the workplace didn't buy in to the energy of that. If everyone just moved away. So if we go back, let me go back to the topic of miracles. I believe that miracles have been made out to be that there's only one in a lifetime. There's the miracle of someone seeing Mother Mary. Yeah, that's a miracle. I think that is. But there's thousands of miracles. There's miracles in your life every day. There's a miracle that perhaps you don't even know about. You may have passed through an intersection, and the miracle is that your car was the one that wasn't hit. You know, you may be in a car accident. I've heard stories of people in accidents where the car was completely mangled. The entire car was destroyed, and the person was right there in the car, and there was nothing around them. That was a miracle. Because given the severity of that accident, most people would never survive, and the person wasn't even injured. And then if you are in a situation where things happen, then you have to look at that and ask yourself, why did that happen for me, not to me? Is this a message? And if it happened for me, can I move to a positive understanding of this versus a negative understanding of this? Because that's what happens to us sometimes. Something happens and we can't see it as this is an opportunity. It's like the car hit the wall. You hit the wall and it's turning you in a different direction. So I'm a big believer that we can truly create our own miracles by having faith, aligning ourselves with the energy of the universe, and also trusting in ourselves and feeling good and confident about who we are. You know, when you feel 100% confident about yourself, you don't really care what people think about you. You really don't. I had a friend once, and she had a very difficult name that just people had trouble pronouncing. And she'd get really mad, you know. And one day I just said, what? You know, come up with something else, you know, or whatever. But, you know, why do you get mad? I understand. It's important. That's your name. But who cares? I mean, who cares? You know, I have 2 R's in my name. I don't care if people put 1 or 2. It doesn't matter because the name Sharron is typically spelled with 1 R. But I don't really care because I know who I am. I know who I am. I'm confident. I'm secure. I'm clear. Also, you know, I'm 75 years old, so I've been around a long time, and I am confident just because I'm older, because I don't care anymore. And that comes with age also. It comes with age and being confident in that you know who you are. And so the point is, when you start from within, being confident, knowing that you can create and align energy with the universe then delivers to you. And I think, you know, Robin is in one of my business programs, and we talk about maybe feeling sometimes desperate in needing to get clients or needing to get business. And one of the things that the whole group we work on and we talk about is that if you're presenting your program and someone just says no, the best thing is to say, okay, next, and not worry about that client. Go to the next client. Go to the next client. Have faith. Know that there will be a next client. If you have that energy and you carry that energy and you're like, I'm confident, I'm good at what I do, and I'll have lots of clients, and I'm going to keep putting myself out there, and those clients that are meant for me will show up. And also, when you put it out to the universe, I would like to create, manifest, align with the miracles of bringing in customers or clients that align with me. People who are ready to work with me because they align with my energy. And when you put that energy out there, that is what you will attract. And sometimes we're like, wow, that's a miracle. Because I know people that have shifted their energy in those situations around their clients, and they finally went, I'm good at what I do, I'm going to keep putting myself out there, I'm going to keep doing the work, and then the clients start flowing in. And when they flow in, and then the next thing they know, they're busy, they're booked every week, they're making a good income to them, that's a miracle. that's a miracle, because it's completely different from what they were doing before, but they took the steps to align their energy, put it out to the universe, do the work, and then receive. And to me, that's what miracles are all about. So, there you have it. I guess my formula for miracles and manifesting. Anyone have situations or something that you consider a miracle that happens in your life? Robin?
I mean, I'm going through one right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so in September last year, I went to an art festival, and so sometimes they have vendors to sell gutters and flooring and all that stuff. So I stopped by one for the flooring, and they came out and they gave me a quote, and I'm like, oh gosh, that is clearly not in my budget right now. So I just let it go, and it's like, whenever it'll happen, it'll happen. So then I started doing this exercise that Sharron taught us back in, I think it was January, you taught it to us. And I choose the end result of, so it's kind of like putting out there to the universe what it is that you want. And so one of mine was an organized home that's like warm, comforting, inviting, and decorated in a way that brings me joy. I've written it so many times I got to memorize. And so then, and I think it was Sharron that even said, you'll get those floors. You just don't know how. They're going to happen. Then on April 24th, but there were people there to do it. But everything is like lined up. It's like the co-owner of the company, the restoration company, had an empty house. So that's where I'm staying. And just
Yeah, and that's how it happens. And I said earlier, sometimes you have to look at what happens for you in order to get you where you were going or what you want. And it's not about worrying about the how. That's one of the biggest issues people run into, even in business. You're always worrying about the how. How do I make X amount of money per month? Well, you go back and you do the steps of building your business, but the how is the energy of the people that are attracted to your business, and that you don't always know what the how is. All of a sudden it may be one person that loves what you're providing, and they tell 25 people, and the next thing you know, there's 25 people, but that was a how that you wouldn't have known about. And also, what also happens sometimes is that there are already things in play that the universe, what I believe is a greater power, already kind of has in play for you. You just don't know it yet. And so there will be something that will occur that will get you to that, of something that you put out. I remember, I think I've told this story before, but I remember when I was in my last corporate role, I made a comment one day to somebody, gee, I wish I could figure out how to get this company to pay me for the rest of my life. And I just kind of made that little flippant comment. And when I decided to leave the company, because it was time, and I'd been there for quite some time, and I was like, okay, I need to retire, I didn't realize at the time I was vested in a pension. And so, and I was like, wow, you mean I'm already vested in this pension? So in reality, once I retired and moved on, a few years later, when the time came, I was able to access my pension. So I have a pension from this company every single month. And I was like, wait a minute. The year that I was there, that company did away with pensions. And all companies now just do 401ks. And no one does a pension anymore. So it was sort of the last group, I was the last group of people that actually got that. So it is interesting how you can just make a very flippant comment, and then the next thing you know, that starts happening. Because you put that out to the universe, but you disconnected any desperate energy to that desire. It's what I call a pure intention. You don't set the intention then go, okay, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Every day you get up, okay, is it happening? You're putting an energy that blocks it. at that point. Anyone else have a situation that you felt like happened that brought you something really positive?
I do. You reminded me of something that happened at my parents' house. We had an old shed, and we didn't have the money, or we didn't have the funds to get rid of it. Next thing I know, there was a tree that fell on the shed, and something about, I guess the insurance company or whatever paid to have it removed. There you go.
There you go. It's taken care of by nature.
Right.
That's right. Nature took care of that for you.
And the insurance probably didn't mind that they didn't have to replace the shed because you didn't care about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
No.
just weird how things like that happen.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And I say take note of those sometimes. And actually even ask yourself, well, where was my energy during that time? What was I thinking? What was I doing? And did I just let it go? Did I, well, what is it? It's like some people say, like I was talking about romantic relationships, and sometimes, someone might say, oh, I want to be in a relationship, and this is the description of the person that I'd love to be in the relationship with, and you just kind of throw that out there for fun, and then, 6 months later, you meet someone that fits that description. And the reality was you threw that out to the universe, and then the universe started working on it. And because you didn't think about it
Oh,
anymore.
good, so that means I have another month to go before that person shows up.
You've already put it out there. There's actually a woman, it's kind of interesting, there's a woman online, I don't even know if I could go back and find her, but she apparently draws your soulmate, and when she draws that soulmate, literally within a short time period, that person shows up in your life. And then she's drawn, just to prove that she can do this, she'll take someone that she doesn't know that is in a relationship, and she will draw a portrait of the person they're in a relationship with. And they're like, oh my gosh, that's my partner, that's my mate, that's my husband, that's my wife, it's like, wow. And so she claims that intuitively she can download the person that is meant for you, and then she draws a complete portrait that looks like a photograph. Wow. And gives it to the person. And many people on her website have claimed that wow, it happened, in such and such time, or eventually did happen. So that individual, but again, I truly believe that it's the combination of the energy. The person is ready to receive someone. She's able to spiritually align herself with that energy, and then when she produces that, it brings together an energy that makes it happen, that puts it in place, puts it in flow. So, yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah. School and the new job. So I ended up putting in an application for a new job, and before I got the new job, the last job was like, oh, are you like moving on? Are you done? And I was like, not yet, but like I'm putting in an application, right? So like I ended up getting the job, but there was like 2 weeks of like vacation. That's what I chalked it up to. So I had some time to just like reset and recenter, and then that time I got accepted to my top school that I wanted to get accepted into for exercise science, to be in track to study physical therapy, because I'm a massage therapist. So, and the school that I got accepted to is Georgia State, and they're top 6 in the country for that program.
Wow. That's great.
So I was like, okay, yeah, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where we're going.
Yeah,
So-
tap into that energy that's always working in my favor. And I believe and I have faith it will continue to work in your favor. Because we do, we have a spark of energy in our body. And that's why they do when people have heart attacks, they do the whatever they are, those paddles that shock you and bring you back to life. And so because of that, we collect matter in our energy field. And everything you think, every thought you think becomes matter in your energy field. And if you are putting positive thoughts in that energy field, then the universe starts working on it. So even if you're thinking negatively, the universe works on it. They're bringing you the negative energy. So we are manifestors in everything that we do. It's not